Welcome back to Co-Labbin.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, how are you today, Shauna?
I'm doing good. How are you? I'm excited to get started with this episode. I've got lots of great things for our audience today.
Yeah, I think it will be an amazing episode. This is episode 205, and we're talking about personal branding. So we have a great guest with us today. Shauna, you want to intro our guest?
Yeah, I'm going to put my eyeballs on. Give me a second, y'all. I can't see without them. Okay, so our special guest today is Gabrielle Gambrell. She is a renowned communications, branding, and media expert with extensive experience serving leading brands in sports, media, entertainment, technology, and lifestyle. As the first Black and youngest Chief Marketing and Communications Officer at Barnard College of Columbia University. Yep, I said that right. You heard that right.
Okay.
She made history while advancing the college's strategic goals through award-winning marketing and communication initiatives. A champion of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We had that conversation. All right. Gabrielle has held leadership roles at FCB Global, NBC Universal, and CBS Communications, just to name a few. Driving impactful campaigns and cultivating inclusive workplace cultures. She is also a professor, you heard that, at Columbia University and NYU, specializing in integrated marketing, digital media, and corporate communications, and a sought-after speaker on DE&I and career development. So we have the right one for you here today.
We do.
We're going to be giving away the keys. We're going to give you everything you need to be successful in your career. Welcome, Gabrielle. So happy to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm so excited to chat with you, and there's just so much to get into, so I'm excited about it.
Thank you. Let's go.
So let's just take a pause real quick and give it up for the accomplished women right now on this podcast. And so Gabrielle, we heard quite a bit in your background. Give us a little about what it is that you're doing now. What's the thing that you're passionate about now? What are you pouring yourself into right now?
Yes, I am honored to currently lead brand strategy and communications at Hatchette Book Group, which is one of the world's leading book publishers. We publish everyone from Viola Davis to Al Roker, and everything in between. We publish all types of books. And so being passionate about media, being passionate about storytelling, I'm very grateful for this new opportunity I've been in for the last 4 months.
Nice.
Wow. Okay.
That's amazing. And you're the Chief Communications Officer for that company?
I am the inaugural Chief Communications Officer. So I'm honored. There's always been a Senior Vice President of Communications, and I am the inaugural Chief Communications Officer. So it's been wonderful to lead in this capacity.
Another first for you, I see.
Yes.
That's amazing. So I guess my question is, in today's climate, right, you're passionate about diversity, equity, and inclusion. We see a lot of shift when it comes to people and their careers. We know there's been some huge layoffs in major media companies. What message do you want people to walk away with right now in terms of where they need to put their focus to get that next best opportunity?
I think it's so important that people never lose focus and that people remain in focus. And even if you have what one may imagine to be a dream job, even if you're working at the likes of ABC, CBS, NBC, all of the places I've worked in the past, business is business. In this time of the year, as it is the end of the year, coming to first quarter, there will be layoffs. I think I just read Marriott, even regardless of sectors, Marriott just announced it was doing massive layoffs. So what helps you to stay focused and remain in a good position is you have to properly brand yourself, and you have to never get too comfortable. And so a part of remaining in focus is making sure your resume is always updated. There should never be a time where it's like, hey, I need to go update my resume. I need to go tell everyone what I'm doing. I need to go communicate my latest projects, my latest successes. People should know that on an ongoing basis so that when an opportunity comes up, you're top of mind.
So what does personal branding mean for you, right? Because I feel like, especially in a corporate space, individuals that are younger in their career, they find it very hard to navigate and really just getting their footing, feeling a sense of gravitas, in terms of what their brand is. They're really just trying to figure it out. So, in my mind, personal branding changes as you sort of grow and elevate in your career. So is there sort of a one way that we should be looking at personal branding?
That's a great question. So your brand should evolve. Just as life evolves, just as you evolve as a person, your brand should evolve. And so what I help my students at Columbia and NYU, when I teach them about branding, is just how when you were in elementary school and you would read a book and regurgitate what was in the book and do a book report, you need to be able to identify who, what, where, when, why, and how for yourself. Who, what, where, when, why, and how for your career. You should be able to answer, what is it that you do? Where is it that you want to go? Because you always want to speak to the future and what's next. Like who, what, and when we get to who, it's like, who have you worked with? Who have you worked for? Who are you looking forward to working for? Who are you looking forward to working with? By when do you want to do it? And how do you want to do that? So who, what, where, when, why, and how, you should be able to answer that for yourself. And I think it's really important in the what. That's part of that. What is your elevator pitch? Everyone, regardless of your profession, regardless of what it is that you do, you should be able to articulate what it is that you do. So for me, I've got the gift of gab. My parents appropriately named me. I'm a storyteller. I tell your story. I tell my story. I tell brand stories. And so in every single thing that I do, people know that I'm there to tell a story. Sometimes it's not a good story. Sometimes it's the crisis comms, issues management, but I'm a storyteller, and that is at the heart of what I do. And that is my skill set. Regardless of what level you're in, whether it is entry level, mid-level, senior, you should be able to articulate who, what, where, when, why, and how, AKA your elevator pitch.
I think those were all really great points. I want to dig in a little bit more into the where, right? We know the environment we're already starting to see a shift based on the new administration. Shauna mentioned a little earlier that we had, a conversation on Co-Labbing about DEI and sort of where we are and where we're going with that. So the where, and if I just reflect personally, the where for me at this stage in my career in terms of the team that I work with, the leaders that I work with was really important. Because when I think about personal branding, it is really about core values. So where will be the group, the team that will share my core values? That's important to me as far as where I'm going to be. I'm not really driven sort of by the salary, title maybe, but it really is core values. I want to feel like I can sort of be as authentic as I want to be in this in my space. So can you talk a little bit about where and sort of, I feel like, people are sort of jumping right now from place to place to place based on whatever it is that drives them. So where should we focus, or how should we focus on the where of it all? Or is that even a focus when you're just talking about, personal branding and thinking about what that is for you?
That's a great point, Dee. So that where element, undertone there is that idea of being a cultural fit. Yeah. Is this in line with my values? Is this a place where I can grow? Is this a place where I'm going to be promoted? Is this a place that's going to see me in my authenticity, see me as my authentic self and able to elevate me? It's interesting working with Gen Z and Gen Alpha. I'm a millennial, but I teach. Most of my students, undergrad, graduate students, are Gen Z and Gen Alpha, and a lot of them aspire to be entrepreneurs at an extraordinary rate, or they aspire to be business partners, and they're in graduate school to find their business partners. But the idea of not every place is for you, and so we have to be able to identify when it's time to leave, when it's time to pivot, because that may not be the best cultural fit. There may be, I've worked for a lot of amazing brands. I've consulted with a lot of dream companies, but some of those dream companies may not be places that I want to work in a full-time capacity. I worked in technology. I worked at Amazon. What I appreciate about working at Amazon, I have some great friends to this day who will probably always be friends from Amazon. Being Black in tech is not easy. There's a lot of cultural nuances there. In the years that I was at Amazon, there were a lot of conversations I had with other Black women that we were like, girl, I see you. And so some of them are still there, right? But there are certain instances where you have to identify, is this an opportunity where I can grow? Is this an opportunity where I can be my authentic self? And every company, I don't care what the company is, I don't care who the company is, every single company has a distinct culture. And a lot of your success will be dependent upon kind of getting in where you fit in, right? It's the idea that a lot of Black women and Black people in general talk about code switch. The way I may show up in corporate America may not be the way I show up as soon as I get home. The way I show up on Thanksgiving, on Christmas with my family and friends may not be how I show up in my 9 to 5. And that may work for you, right? You may be comfortable in that so-called code switch. And in other instances, it may not be the proper fit for you. So that's really, really important. I've had the opportunity as a leader. I take a lot of pride in mentorship. A lot of my success is due to mentors, and I've had mentors that look like me and mentors that don't look like me. My first job, my very first job, I was hired at Disney ABC. I worked on a show called Live with Regis and Kelly with the late great Regis Philbin, who is a legend and one of the nicest, kindest people I've met in the industry, Kelly Ripa, who I still have a great relationship with. And though it was a dream job, I'm working on a live television show every day, I had a lot of bills. And when you start off working in television production, I graduated college with honors. I graduated with a 4.0. I couldn't work in production because it wasn't paying the bills for the time being. So I did a little bit of a pivot. I was talking to a mentor of mine, Marty Daly, who at the time was executive vice president of network sales at CBS. And so he's like, hey, I know you love television. I know you have a degree. My undergraduate degree is in television. I have a degree in television. Wow. My minor is in broadcasting, television, video, film. And so he's like, I have an opportunity being my assistant. You'll work on the sales team. I feel confident you can move around. And so like knowing when and where, I had the executive vice president of sales at CBS saying, come here. Yeah. There's an opportunity for you here. There's an opportunity to perhaps make a little bit more money than you're making with production. Yeah. And so when I got there at the very beginning, I kind of paid attention to the culture, very different culture. ABC News, ABC, Disney Network, and CBS was night and day culture. So, you know, being on a live television set, working with talent, I did not show up in the same capacity working with senior executives, even just being an assistant. So those little things of paying attention and recognizing different cultures, even though it's somewhat the same industry. ABC, CBS are competitors, but how you show up needs to be specific to that business. And something else that I've learned early in my career, sooner than later, rather, is that you have to kind of pay attention to cues and norms in that space because it may be different. And I think that's really important too, in terms of branding yourself. A lot of your success is how people perceive you. And so people enjoying your company in the office, people enjoy casual talk with you. That has something to do with your brand. How people like to speak to you. And we used to say at the water cooler, you don't really have that anymore, but now it's like a kitchen area. But that all speaks to your brand.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this question. What are some definite no-nos like that you've learned in the workplace? Like you absolutely do not do this, right? Because when you talk about you got to pay attention to the cues and clues, not everybody's good at that, right? Not everybody's good at nuance. You know what I mean? So are there any standards for you that you say, you know, absolutely, this should never happen, or this will work against you? You know what I mean? Those kinds of things.
Yeah. I think it's really important to recognize that your success is often dependent upon other people. That's crazy, right? Your success is often dependent upon other people liking you, other people wanting you in the room, other people singing your praises, sponsors. And so with that being said, in terms of being a proper culture fit or your brand being a proper representation, you have to have emotional intelligence. And that's something that's not really taught in college. That's not something that people really learn. And so that emotional intelligence is being able to read a room, being able to say, okay, this is when I insert myself, or this is when I say, actually, I'll take that on and I know I can knock it out the park. And so a lot of times, not reading the room, lacking emotional intelligence can be a hindrance to your brand. There's a young lady who I worked with at one of my jobs, and she was as smart as can be, Ivy League educated. She was a woman of color. She produced really great work, but she lacked emotional intelligence. She had no executive presence, and she was a little awkward, as we all can be a little awkward, but that hindered her career so much. And even though she was a phenomenal writer, phenomenal communicator, great at copy editing, people didn't want to work with her. And so, again, she produced good work, but her quirkiness, if you will, would say, I don't even want to deal with her. And it's not, she's just being herself. And so essentially she left, and I think she's fine now, but that company wasn't the proper culture fit for her.
So I distinctly remember attending a webinar that you led, and I learned so much about that webinar where you were really talking about how to leverage the tools we have available to us in social media to really let people know who we're all about, similar to what you talked about earlier, right? People should know your brand. You shouldn't wait to update your resume. You should constantly be communicating what it is that you're doing. So how do we leverage social media properly to accomplish that?
Great question. So social media can be such a tremendous tool. We are in an era, as we come into 2025, when the first thing anyone does is they Google you. And what are they going to find when they Google you? Typically, your social media is at a high point in SEO, in a Google search. So right away, if people want to know more about you, do I want to do business with them? Do I want to hire them? I'm going to go check out your social media. And so for me, social media is under my purview. It's a part of brand strategy. I've led social media at CBS. I've done social media stuff at NBC for really big brands. And so someone may apply to be a social media coordinator, a social media manager, director of social media, etc. And their pages are private. Okay, so I'm going to send you a request to follow you, or either give me. If you want to have something private, that's absolutely fine, but you got to give me options.
Something else. Yeah.
So if you have a private Facebook that's for your family, your loved ones, to talk about your love of cats and dogs or what have you, your beautiful children, that's fine. But I need to know that you know how to work Facebook. So then you need to have 2 accounts, or like that's a thing, right? Where some people are like, oh, I can't keep up with 2 accounts. I only have 1, but this is private. If you want to enhance your brand and you want to tell your brand story, you should be using social media in some capacity. Perhaps it's just one platform. If that's the case, your LinkedIn needs to be up to par. And up to par means you're updating it 2 to 3 times a week at minimum. And someone can say, how am I updating my LinkedIn 2 to 3 times a week? Who has to update LinkedIn updates for that much, right? Who has that much time to update LinkedIn? Well, did you attend a workshop for work? Did you have a pivotal conversation with a coworker that really made you think about the future of the industry? Did you read an article? I tell my students all the time, reading is fundamental. You should be constantly reading about the industry that you're in. Share a link to an article in your thoughts. Bam, here's a LinkedIn post. And so people also don't understand. I've had people ask, what is the difference between my resume and LinkedIn? You're not putting your thoughts on an article on your resume. You're not putting that you attended a workshop on your resume, unless it was something pretty significant. You're not putting that you attended Afrotech on your resume, but I want to see some pictures of you on Afrotech on your LinkedIn. I want to see you networking with other people. I want to see you giving high level takeaways from Afrotech. And it is so important that when people Google you, that they find the right things. And those are things that we can control.
So, okay, I know you mentioned LinkedIn, you mentioned Facebook. Outside of those platforms, where else do you feel like people should go to let, kind of share who they are a little bit more? Like, do you recommend Instagram, TikTok, which I'm still trying to figure out myself?
So I will say the algorithm on TikTok, nothing compares to the algorithm on TikTok. If you're trying to go viral really quick, TikTok's the place to go. But our goal shouldn't necessarily be to go viral. You should start with the goal of producing good content. You should start with the goal of when people Google you and people search for you, what will they find? It is hard to update 5, 6 platforms. So maybe you have 2 or 3 where you're doing multi-purpose content. You're posting something on your LinkedIn, you're posting it on your Twitter or your Threads now. We know a lot of people left Twitter/X recently. You may be posting the same things on certain platforms, right? But at the heart of your posting should be, what's my strategy? What do I want people to know? What do I want people to see when they Google me? Do I want them to find my interest, my thoughts on things? What is it that I find will be impactful to elevate my career, to elevate my brand? I am super intentional about the things I post on social media. All of my social media pages are open. And because of that, I do utilize some platforms that have like private, like my Instagram, for instance, I'll post to my private friends, like certain specific things. But the bulk of my social media, I'm very conscientious that it is free and open to the whole wide world. And so everything I post, there's a rule I tell my students. Everything I post, I think of, what if my prayer warrior saw this? What if my priest saw this? What if my minister saw this? What if my pastor saw this? My religious leader? What if my grandmother, right? My grandmother.
Right, your grandmother.
My mom can kind of, but my grandmother, I care very much. My grandmother's no longer living, neither one of them. But if my grandmother, I question, if my grandmother saw this, would she be proud of me? Would she say, that's my baby girl? And so then I think of one day, God willing, my children get married and I become a grandmother. What if my great grandchildren one day see this? Will I be embarrassed? Would I be ashamed? So those are certain questions that we should think about when we are posting and sharing on social media, knowing that things live forever and it never really goes away. So being very cognizant of the fact that the internet is the internet and what you post is your brand. What you post is your brand. And so I may be very strong about some political things. I'm probably not going to post all of that because I work in an industry in publishing, for instance. We publish for all people, all beliefs, all backgrounds. And so my beliefs may be my beliefs. But because I work in an industry, when I publish for all people of all backgrounds and all beliefs, I'm cognizant of that, right? I wouldn't want to, heaven forbid, mess up a deal because they're like, oh, I saw what she posted, and so she's not of our community or she offended me, right? I will always stand up for what I believe in, and I'm blessed and fortunate to be at a place in my career that if a company's values are not in line with mine, I say, God bless, that's not for me. And so all the work that I do are with partners and organizations that I believe in their values. And I've gotten to a place earlier in my career, I'm grateful for a check. Let's be honest. There is a level of comfort as you grow into your career and you get to the C-suite that you can be more selective and more intentional about certain things. But early in our career, and that's an important thing too, early in career employees, I'm still checking. If I'm hiring an executive assistant, I'm still checking your social media. And someone may think it's just an assistant job. I'm checking.
So let me ask you,
for myself.
Oh my gosh. Do you think so? Outside of LinkedIn, right? If you're not a business owner, is social media a need? Is it a must? Is it a must do? Do you have to contribute on social media if you're not a business owner?
Yes, because if you're not a business owner, that means you're an employee. And when people are on the fence about hiring someone, they Google them. I have two candidates. I'm Googling them to see.
Outside of LinkedIn? So outside
200%.
of LinkedIn. Okay. But I mean,
a part of background checks now.
Instagram or Facebook or.
That's fine.
Is that okay?
But a part of background checks as we enter 2025, a part of background checks are Google searches. And so because we have the capacity to impact what comes up in a Google search, people may actually be alarmed. If I Google you, let's say you're dating. We know this, right? People do online dating. And so you're trying to see, do I want to continue with this person? Do I want to go on a date with them? I don't find anything. That's weird. I really like this person. The conversation is amazing. I like all their photos. I think this may be my boo. This may be the one. And then I Google them and nothing comes up. Something's not right. You think the person's not real.
Right.
We live in a world, in a society, in a culture where everything can be searched. Including your identity, your values, who you are as a person. And it will be negligent to think that people aren't Googling you. Everyone is Googling you, from your potential spouse to your employer. Hi, I'm Gabrielle Gambrell. You're listening to Co-Labbin. Check out the episode and more.
All right. So you said a lot. And, one thing that kind of stood out to me, one thing I will say in that space of, always taking into consideration that this job might not always be here, right, is that the only stability you have is the stability you make for yourself. Right? Whatever that may be, always preparing, be prepared for a worst case scenario, right? Always hope for the best, be prepared for the worst. That's kind of what I got out of what you were saying. But there was also just a lot of goodness around, being your authentic self, which I think is so hard to do in today's day and age, right? When you're thinking about personal branding, how you're balancing that about being your authentic self. And I know you mentioned that you have a lot of things that you're involved in. You're a professor, you're an executive, you have your own business, but I know you're also a mom, and that's a big part of what you share with the world, which I love to see. Like, I feel like I've gotten to know your family through your social media posts. I feel like I'm one of the family. I'm like, hey, like the kids and everything. So just tell me how you balance motherhood with everything you're doing, because you have the career of 3 people. I know how important your family is to you. So please give us those secrets so that other moms out there can get it right.
Yes. So when I think about my personal brand and what I want my brand to be and what I want to be remembered as, being a business owner, being an executive, being the first to do this and the first to do that are not what I want at the top of my list. God willing, I want people to know I was a woman of God, and I tried my best to operate with God's love and God's kindness. And right below that, I want people to know that I was a mother and that my family means a lot to me. And so because of that, because my family means a lot to me, because one of my proudest things in the world is being a mother, I intentionally showcase my family. I intentionally talk about motherhood. I intentionally will give you behind the scenes planning of a birthday party, behind the scenes mommy fail. My son is booked and busy. He's in karate 3 days a week. He's in basketball. He's in soccer. Football just ended. And it's not easy when you are working a lot. So how do you do these things? I personally am very fortunate and blessed that me and my husband are completely opposite in how we work. I love working. I'm going to work. I'll work late. I'll wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to work. My husband's 9 to 5, non-negotiable. At 5 o'clock, he turns off his work phone, and his boss knows if it's an emergency to call his personal phone. And so he is phenomenal at putting workplace boundaries up, and he is an executive himself. He's very successful. He does really well, but he 9 to 5. He's not working on a weekend. And because of that, 9 to 5, the kids have something at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. My husband, he, in the same capacity where I am so honored to be a mother, and it means so much to me in terms of being equally yoked. My husband, his greatest joy is being a father. So if one of the kids have something at 6 o'clock, 6:37, my husband is there and he loves it. And so I am grateful and I benefit from having a great partner in that capacity. But right now, as we're doing this podcast, my husband plays basketball and football. I think he's in New Jersey somewhere playing football right now. And so I have a babysitter downstairs.
Oh, wow.
And so I do think we may get to the point that we may have to hire a nanny or have some additional help. The founder of Blavity recently just posted, I think it was yesterday, she posted on her TikTok and on her Morgan. She posted on her TikTok and on her LinkedIn about, as Black women, we think we have to do everything ourselves. And if you are fortunate enough to hire and get some help because it'll make you more efficient. It'll make you happier. She noted that she sleeps 8 or 9 hours a day. I don't even know what that looks like.
Wow.
I envy her.
It's like that thought that you can truly sleep 8 hours. Like some people sleep 8 hours. And so I am a work in progress. And so I look forward to being able to delegate some more. And as Black women, we often take on too much ourselves. And so I'm grateful for a partner that helps me with delegation, or he'll say, I'll do this, I'll do that. And so delegation, time management helps me to do all of these things. And I try my best to communicate and to talk about motherhood, the good, the bad, the successes, the things I wish somebody warned me about. But it is truly a part of my brand and something I want people to know about me. It's so important to who I am as a person.
I love that. I mean, I think, one of the things you said, as Black women, there's a lot of guilt that comes along with, right, with passing off or delegating. And somehow we got to, especially when you do have the amount of responsibilities that you have, you got to let go of the guilt and do what's best for everyone, because you end up failing in certain areas if you try to do, if you can't do it all, right? No woman is an island. You have to pull on your resources, and maybe that's family members, and that will make you, like, I know my mom for years helps me with my youngest daughter. If it wasn't for my mother, I mean, and her support, there's a lot of things I wouldn't be able to do, as well as my husband, so I can totally relate. That support system is everything. Yeah, I know about that too, because I know you have your strong support system in place as well. So
I do, but I no longer feel guilty. I don't feel guilty. I threw that out a long time ago, because ultimately, yes, my village has helped me throughout my entire life. So, and now I understand. I'm like your husband. I know where the give and takes are, and I know where, it's certain things are just non-negotiable. If she has something going on, I'm going to be there, and I don't, it's. But again, it's really about getting to that place where you can, or feel like you can do it. And my boss is an advocate of it, and she always says, her favorite saying is rest is a form of resistance, and so. It took me working with someone like that to feel like I can give myself permission. And so I think that's why when we talk about culture and, shared values, I think those make all the difference. And, with the sense of belonging and being able to really, foster authenticity in the workplace. So it just, at this point, it's like, ultimately, what is going to work for the family, if I'm doing something, is never a selfish thing. I'm doing it with the goal, with the family in mind. And so, if you have to hire a sitter, or if you have to hire someone to do a deep clean or whatever it is, I wouldn't, feel guilt around that. And then, things that I love to do, like I don't know what it is, but I love washing clothes. Nobody is going to wash my clothes for me. Like, I love to wash my own clothes. So, that's I don't ever give that task away, but, absolutely. I think that, like you both said, you can't do it all alone. And so it really takes a village for all of us to be grateful.
Wow. There's so many gems that came out of this conversation, and we're going to have to bring you back at some point. We're going to have you as a regular, because as things pivot and change, we know we're about to have a crazy 4 years. And I know you have a strong background in diversity, equity, and inclusion as well.
We do like a regular Gabby's Gab session.
It's a gab. We need to add that as a segment. I don't know, but we definitely have. Thank you so much for all the, wonderful and tangible things that you have really shared with our audience. It's definitely a blessing to have you here with us today. And, I wish you so much success, continued success in all areas of your life. You're a beautiful person. You absolutely are a light. You've been a light in this segment, this podcast. And I hope that we do some more great things together. So one thing we do, Gabrielle, is we like to leave our audience with one tangible, one small change. What's the one thing they can do personally or professionally that's going to move them forward in a positive way in their life? And just considering the topic, I know this is your area of expertise. What's the one starting place or what one thing would you leave with our guests that they can take away and it's, that's actionable?
Ask yourself, who is it that I want to be? And so when you ask yourself, who is it that I want to be? Literally write it down, put it on paper, read it over. And that should change and evolve. Just how we have New Year's resolutions, just how we have in this season, I'm this person, in that season, I'm that person. You have to be able to answer that question, who am I? And be able to see and think about and study and be intentional on who you want to be. When you see it on paper, when you speak it out loud, when you read it, it helps you to become and to grow and to take necessary steps to get to that place.
Wow. I couldn't have said it any better. Thank you so much. You all have your one small change now, and make sure you leave us comments on what it is that you're doing and maybe what it is that you wrote down and how we can help you.
And if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much, Gabrielle.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This has been a great session. Thank you so much.
I know you're getting ready for the holidays. Are the kids excited? Are the kids excited about the holidays?
The kids are so excited. So I don't know if they know what the deal is with Santa. And my love language is gift giving, so I keep buying.
Did you get an L?